Hello everyone, welcome to this part 3 of the introduction to Taoism, and my name's Anthony Cummins and you're watching a Natori Ryu video. So let's start. Last time we did classical Taoism, which is what we all imagine as Taoism. So what's the next step? Well, believe it or not, the next step is actually religious Taoism. So Taoism starts as an idea of following the way, but like all things gets turned into dogmatic religious order. Many people will jump on that and be like, what, Taoism is a religion? No, like, actually it's true. Remember what we discussed before, is Taoism is not an identifiable single idea. It's actually those people who integrate with the way, yin-yang and the five-element theory. And to be honest, other people do that as well and are not Taoists. But for this, do you remember last time we did classical Taoism, philosophical Taoism, was from the 6th century BC to the 3rd century BC. Well, after this, you basically start to get religious Taoism. Now, the name for religious Taoism, as a very broad scope, is this one. However, last time, in lesson 2, we did classical Taoism, and there was the name for that in there. Well, actually, it turns out that a lot of people interchange these names in China, so don't actually stick to that too much, because people themselves will move them around, even in China. Now, what I have to make clear here is that what is religious Taoism and what is classical Taoism is actually mixed in together a lot of the times, and the professor who wrote this book states that actually even now they argue about what is and what is not, so we are not going to understand it, and it basically doesn't matter. Just know that there are divisions between the two and that they actually mix together at some points. So I want to read to you now from page 28 of this book the different types of religious Taoism. So this is crazy. These are in chronological order. So the way of the celestial masters, the first organised movement that can really be called Taoist, it's formed in 142 AD, and almost all subsequent Taoist organisations are in some way descended from this original one. Highest purity and numerous treasure, self-cultivation groups that began in the 4th and 5th centuries and produced a large number of texts and practiced meditation and alchemy. Central heart, spiritual firmament, and the perfect great way Taoism, a short-lived sect that arose in the 11th through to the 13th century. It didn't last long, but they provided important links between the earlier sects and the two lineages that exist today. So they're basically a link in the history. Orthodox unity Taoism, one of the 2 Taoist dominations that survive in China today. So remember, that's 2 that survive today apparently. This branch is conducts rituals and preside over various public and private ceremonies. It understands itself as a direct descendant of the original way of the celestial masters. So it thinks it has got an undisputed claim right the way back to the beginning. Then lastly, you get the complete perfect Taoism. So this is the other denomination, so number 2, that you still find in China today. So and their branch is monastic, which means they are members and receive training and live in monasteries, founded in the 12th century. This is the newest existing branch of Taoism. So what you have to realise there is that originally we had classical Taoism, which is the philosophy and the thought, and it becomes a religious dogma, and then you get deities, and in fact this is what it says here, you get deities, scriptures, priests and sacred places, which actually in some of that goes against what it says in Lao Tzu's work. So he's actually saying don't worry about life and death, but these guys are trying to find immortality and alchemy to last forever. So actually they do clash. Now, the other problem we have is that not everybody who is classified in China as a Taoist, that being a religious Taoist, is actually a Taoist. So you get the idea that, are they Buddhist? No. Oh, well then, are they Confucianist? No. Oh, well, they've got to be Taoist then. And what they do is all the shamanic, all the cult rituals, all the cult religions get grouped together and pushed in Taoism. That's it. It's just like, you can have them. And Taoists are like, well, they're not ours. They don't even do the same thing as we do. And you're like, they may be similar, or there may be some traditions that share, but on the whole, you've got pure Taoism, and then you've got people lumped in with it. So there's a big mess there in Taoism. That's why it's quite hard to understand, because you've got philosophical Taoists, you've got religious Taoists, you've got people who bridge and connect between the two, and then you have people who are not Taoist who are just shoved in, and then they interchange all the words and everybody's arguing about it. So I hope that makes a lot of sense, guys. I hope you're enjoying this. Just take from this the fact that there are two distinct branches here. There's philosophical Taoism and religious Taoism, and some people indulge in both.